Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak and lovely to have you here on the broadcast. With me in the studio, Ambrose Weda, an advocate of the High Court, Mark Mwinje, MP, Embakasi West constituency, and Janet Oko, Director, Tunza Mtoto Coalition, and one of the organizers of today's Occupy Parliament protests. Honorable Mark Mwinje, I also understand that you have your parliamentary group meeting later in the day. What meaningful outcome do the Kenyan people expect out of the Azimio Coalition parliamentary group meeting?
Thank you very much for inviting us. First of all, let me take the opportunity to say hello and good morning to the people of Embakasi West and our viewers. I believe our leader of the Azimio Coalition, who is and still remains Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, expressed his views openly with regards to the finance bill. And what will be happening today, because it's, I think it's an open secret, we as Azimio will be holding a PG later on to discuss some of the issues that are affecting us on the finance bill. It is clear the position Kenyans have taken. I can tell you that in the last couple of days, since Thursday last week, our numbers as members of parliament, our telephone numbers were shared
in public.
Somebody will have to tell us who did this. But more importantly, that Kenyans express themselves. I can tell you I have probably close to 500 messages now between Thursday and today.
Yeah.
And these are just random messages that are just one line. Reject the finance bill, reject the finance. That's all those messages are saying. And so many members of parliament have received those messages. So as a coalition, we already have a position when it comes to this finance bill. One of the things that we gave ourselves time is to allow for public participation. And you know, we've learned from last year. Last year, I believe the coalition led, because we had an issue with the finance bill last year. We as a coalition were the ones at the forefront. This time around, we thought, let us allow Kenyans to take a lead on this issue. Public participation was conducted. We encouraged, we as members of parliament, especially from our coalition, we encouraged the public, go. Let us hear you speak for once. Let it not just be about the members of parliament, because, the members of parliament from our coalition, we're talking about 100 members or so. But the public, when you have the public attending these meetings and talking passionately as you have seen, then the issues have come to light. And more importantly, we want to thank the media, the civil society, and all those Kenyans who dissected, all those experts who've dissected this finance bill to get it down there. For the first time, I felt even the Mama Mboga understands. We need more civil education, but for the first time, I feel they truly understand. It isn't like last year. Last year where we were trying to tell people that some of these taxes that are being increased are going to affect you in this way and that way. And unfortunately, there was a talk that was there. No, the people who are being taxed are going to be the ones who are salaried. We are putting a housing levy. It is those ones who are going to pay. You know, that was the conversation we had. That was the challenge we faced last year. So the public, I believe even last year, as much as we had quite a number of people opposed to it, I think the public was deceived. But right now they have seen, based on what the impact of even the last financial bill, because we're still feeling it till today. It means people who are salaried, people who have businesses and all that, have scaled down. If they are not spending their money, if the wealthy are having more of their money taxed, and they don't have enough to go spend and buy from the Mama Mbogas and do all that they would normally do, then it means our economy has shrunk, that we don't have enough money going around. So you might think that you're taxing a certain area, but I can assure you, with the proposals that we have in this finance bill, are going to bring everybody. And we're going to collect from everyone. And yet, right now, today, we have people who live on less than 200 shillings a day.
But given what happened before the Kuria Kimani-led committee, even last year in 2023, Honorable Mwinje, still on you, and in consideration of the major proposals that were presented before the committee, there seems to be a change in tone and language here on some of the recommendations reportedly, the majority whip at the National Assembly, who had yesterday, spoken with my colleague Seth Olale. What do you think then is changing the course of parliamentarians here? You included, because if the shoe would be on the other foot, then still there will be concerns, because you folks at the National Assembly end up causing to the executive of the day, and that is where the major problem lies. It isn't a Kenya Kwanza affair, but even if we have President X at State House and Honorable Mark Mwinje still represents Embakasi West, still, if he's party leader, can't say no to a major cause that he's willing be passed at the National Assembly.
What is different this year? Remember last year, there were members of parliament from the Kenya Kwanza coalition who were saying, we shall not change even a comma. You have not seen that talk. Right now, you've just put, you could see the majority whip, speaking that there are things that we are going to change. Last year, those were the same people who were saying, we are not changing anything. Right now, they can feel the pressure. They know that this is not even a matter of Azimio anymore. It is not about the demonstrations that we threatened last time. This time, they can clearly see that there's going to be unrest from Kenyans themselves. So that is what has changed between last year and this year. I know you're saying well, the shoe, it depends on the shoe, it depends on the side that you're seated on. When former President Uhuru Kenyatta was in power, this issue of 16% VAT on fuel was there. It was put there at that time. But because of the pressure that was exerted then, he reduced it to 8%. When Kenya Kwanza were campaigning, they complained about that issue. They said, you're putting VAT on fuel, which then the president reduced to 8%. But what do they do with their first finance bill as soon as they're elected? Because that was last year. They brought it back to 16%. Some of the things that you're seeing are the proposed taxes that are controversial. You have this motor vehicle tax. 2.5%. Anybody who's watching knows that if you don't amend this the way it is, anyone who has a vehicle of 4 million and above, you're going to be paying 100,000. Your taxes are paid upfront. You don't pay them in installments. The way it is structured in the finance bill, it means you have to pay for that tax. The proposal on moving a tax exemption from 0 rating on bread to 16% is going to increase the cost of bread. The issues of increasing excise duty from 15% to 20% and VAT on money transfer services. That means M-Pesa. That means any transfer between our banks. What is that going to do? Ambrose here is an advocate. Yeah. And he knows, and I can tell him he knows what's going to happen. We're going to go back to the cash system that existed before, because people are going to start avoiding these taxes. Today, everyone, any business that you conduct, you are using your telephone. You're on data. We are all on WhatsApp. Okay. In fact, all those Kenyans who are campaigning are using WhatsApp messages to contact us. We're increasing all those taxes. You know, we're even increasing... Let me be honest. When Kenya Kwanza campaigned, there's a very good video of the president saying that you're going to give diapers to mothers for 3 months. This finance bill is increasing the cost of diapers. I mean, how can you be so diverse from what you promised to what you're actually implementing with your second finance bill as president?
All right.
Those are the issues that you're seeing that we've highlighted. These are the issues that we're expecting the finance committee. The finance committee has conducted public participation. Okay. They are retreating. The reason why for us as Azimio is that we want to give space to see the proposals that are there.
Thank you.
We expect that to come today.
Okay. We
go through it, and then we'll be able to give even a more firm position and strategize on the way forward.
All right. Janet, I do understand also that you are part of the organizers of today's Occupy Parliament protest. What do you intend to achieve with that movement?
Thank you very much. And I really want to thank members of public and civil society organizations for driving a citizens' movement aiming at reclaiming our nation. Because if you listen to some of the members of parliament speaking, they've really watered down what public participation was meant to do. And we do not have evidence that all these concerns that Kenyans have raised will find their way into the report, or actually the views of Kenyans are advising members of parliament. We have evidence to the contrary, that we say this, but they end up saying the other. So I think the move today is to have citizens literally carrying their demands and presenting to parliament for our lack of trust in the public participation processes, because we have clearly seen that really is not advising members of parliament. We want the citizens of this country want to literally present what their views are to that parliament and really tell the members of parliament that you're not going to sit there and pass legislations that do not come from us. That we really want to strengthen the role of parliament in this country. And that's what citizens are doing, are going to be doing today. And we are telling them, we know what we have said, and we know what we want. They're telling us they want to build a country, but they're building a country for who? They're building a country for us. So it must be built with us and according to how we think that it's going to go. We're seeing some comments that there are some proposals that have been removed. There are others that have not been removed. And we really desire a situation where when the report is put out there and we actually get to see how much of the public views have been taken on board and how much of those views have been ignored. I listened to Osoro, and he was saying that they have put in proposals. The proposals they put out were from the public. Can you imagine which members of public proposed 16% on bread, for example? So I think the question of integrity in all these processes is something that we really need to raise, and that is the role of the citizens in this today, and that's what citizens are going to be doing today. The integrity of the process. How do we make sure that, for example, the PG meetings, we really respect political whipping, but you realize that this is a process that is not recognized in the Constitution in terms of how we pass our laws in this country. But that PG is going to be more superior than anything else. I was chatting with one of the members of parliament before I came here, and they were telling me even the chairman of the committee does not have a lot of power. A lot of power is going to come from the meeting of today. So looking at it, are we losing our systems? Are we losing our structures? How can we achieve a parliament that is so independent as to say, Mr. President, this is actually what Kenyans have told us, and this is what we are putting through. I want to correct this team that thinks that building the country has begun with the Kenya Kwanza government. No, employing teachers began. It was there since Moi's time. Teachers have been employed, but citizens of this country have not been killed with these kinds of taxes that we are seeing. I want to ask, is it true? Is it correct?
There is a major dilemma here, given what you have said at the moment. And a majority of the current crop of the bicameral parliament members, the Senate and the National Assembly, complained about the conduct of parliamentary group meeting during Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure. And this seems to be a carryover tradition that even the current president is exercising, though parliament carries the power even to impeach the president of the Republic of Kenya. He can be anyone who occupies State House here in Nairobi. But why is this tradition then perpetually continuing? I mean, what's wrong with the conscience of parliamentarians? Can they just exercise their independence as required? Must they be shepherded to State House?
I think the quality also of the members of parliament we have is something that the voters themselves have seen for themselves, and I know that this will form a very critical component of conversations around 2027. If you think of a parliament that passed a budget that they're going to renovate the deputy president's house, for example, at 680 million, a house that was constructed using 400 million. Why don't they put down the whole thing and they start it afresh if renovating could be that expensive? So what does that tell you? Is that, and I agree with the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka when he says that we are suspecting that about 1 trillion of that money is budgeted corruption. How do you explain that 800 million is a vote for, what are they calling it, undisclosed? You know, I'm just forgetting the term that they're using, that it is monies that you do not have to account to anybody. That is 800 million. And we have a president who is telling us that a feeding program costing 4 billion, for example, is not going to be affordable. When you think about ourselves and so on. And we are wondering, If this is actually some of the components that Kenyans have flagged out, these are the components of the budget.
Thank you.
Do I really have to suffer all this much, to be taxed all this much for me to renovate a house like that? Do I have to really suffer like that for an unaccounted for vote where people will be going for bashes and sponsoring their political clandestine activities? Do Kenyans really have to suffer that much? So I think even the conversation today that citizens are raising with Parliament is about accountability on the budget. How sure are we that the issues that have been raised on the budget are going to be the issues that this government will spend that money on?
Thank you. Yes, Ambrose.
Thank you. Let me start. Allow me to advise Mheshimiwa Mwenje. Very sad that you do not know that the economic interventions last year, the GDP expanded from 4.8 to 5.4. You are the one who should educate your people. Us. Coming to say rubbishing everything, that's wrong. For these gentlemen and ladies going to occupy Parliament, it's good in expanding freedom, pleasing their donors. We are doing something. But those who want a dent, those who want some work to be done on the finance bill, they would make recommendations with Mheshimiwa, and they say, Mheshimiwa, these are our objections, these are what we think, and therefore when you go inside Parliament, please raise these ones, debate these ones. Now, they rubbish the MPs, they rubbish the presidency, they rubbish everything being done. They only think that what they are doing outside, going to occupy Parliament, is the best. We have a structure, the Constitution, elections, MPs, senators, presidency, judiciary. When we are talking about the finance bill, when we are talking about the country, we are talking about figures, and we are talking about what to be done. So there are things people speak during elections. I know my brother Mwenja here. He spoke good things. I will bring free education, free meals, free food. But when you go in and look at the past, the money, that is when you say, Wana, we have to collect this money and just pay teachers. We are not going to build classrooms because of the money. Somebody says, people have been paying teachers. Madam, us, we are lucky, me and you, we are lucky that we are just called to pay money. People like Deda and Kimathi, people like Achieng' Oneko, people like Kotalela Rapsomei, they were called to get rid of the Wazungus, and they had to put their lives on the table for us to be free. And Deda and Kimathi is still dead. So when it comes to us squeezing ourselves to pay tax, nobody wants to pay tax, nobody loves to pay tax, but it is a sacrifice we have to make. I don't like to pay it. If you look at the middle class tax, like motor vehicle tax, the one that has been hyped, I don't want to pay it because I'm one of the major victims who pay it. But the principle of taxation, the world over, is that you look for the money where it is, and you look for the rich. The middle. Let me just develop this.
Yes, Ambrose, you have raised a lot of fundamental issues.
Yes.
They are in regards to also the economic growth that you have mentioned. You said 4 billion?
5.4 from 4.8.
Okay.
The GDP.
Okay.
The total transactions valued in money in the country.
Okay. The largest sector in terms of contribution to that?
I need to check, but I think it is agriculture that gives us more. We spend less, we spend more on imports. But what feeds this country, what keeps us living, what everyone Jikuda eats is from the agricultural sector.
Agriculture, right. That's according to the Economic Survey report of 2024.
Yes.
And this is largely because of the rains that we have had in 2023.
Yes.
And given the climate patterns, how sure are you then this can be sustained, given the predictions by the UN that we could be looking into the dry season?
Yes. My brother, that is why we again recall and say, may God save, put Professor Wangari Maathai's soul in eternal rest. He said, nature does not forgive. We have to address certain issues that will address climate change. And that can only be addressed through fiscal decisions. Now we don't want e-taxes to address this issue so that tomorrow ourselves and our children and grandchildren will get a better country, will deal with this climate change. That one also we have rejected. We just want to occupy Parliament.
Okay.
Some people have to pay a price.
Let's come to motor vehicle tax that you have talked about.
Yes.
And this is meant to get 58 billion as per the chairperson of the committee,
Yes.
Kuria Kimani.
Yes.
A couple of questions.
Yes.
We had introduced a while ago
Yes.
the petroleum levy.
Yes.
Back in the day, there was also the motor vehicle insurance.
Yes.
It was replaced by the fuel levy to collect revenue.
Yes.
And now you're introducing another tax.
Correct.
Isn't that double taxation?
That may be double, triple, quadruple taxation. The basic principle of taxation is that you look at who has the money, who has benefited the most in this economy. And in Kenya, the way to check is land, cars. We have 5 million cars in this country. About 1 million cars are transport.
Okay.
The other 4 million are luxurious, top-of-the-range cars driven by Ayub, Ambrose Weda, Mheshimiwa Mwenje, great lady, big cars. Now, when you want to raise money, you look and say, now we go to these people. And because they are the middle class.
But they're already paying tax. Remember?
Yes.
Why do you want to double tax them?
It is not double tax.
Triple.
It is triple, it could be.
Why then?
Because we have to raise money to fund the budget.
Is it by all means necessary?
Let me tell you, I'm a private citizen.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, yes.
Are you comfortable paying that money?
Nobody's comfortable paying tax, but we have to pay it. It's a
Are you
price. I told you. It's not comfort.
Yeah.
It's a price we have to pay our day. Dedan and Kimathi paid with their lives, and now we are yapping here. Free. Now us, we pay money.
The challenge is, Ambrose, Wakili, is that somewhat you're painting the Kenyan people as not playing their fair share of the game in not paying taxes.
No.
I mean, post-independence, you have talked about pre-independence. Post-independence, Kenyans have been consistent in their fair share of the taxes that they have paid. It's the aspect of mismanagement of the funds that they pay and the stealing of the money that they pay.
Yes.
You are depicting the Kenyan people as though there is laxity and a laid-back approach that they have in terms of paying their taxes.
Ayub, allow me to
Why
explain.
not live within our means then?
Allow me to explain.
Okay.
The figures I gave you, if you add them, there will be nothing for development. And I told you that I went to university paid by other people who paid taxes. Now I have benefited most. I'm a lawyer of 29 years, senior, big legal fees. Now it is my turn to be compelled to pay. I don't like paying it, but have to pay so that somebody else, your grandchild, the road in Madogo has to be prepared. Now, where do you get it? The 30 million shilling Land Rover, Vogue, has to pay. So we have to pay this as we are looking for where the money is. Not that the Kenyans do not want to pay their fair share.
Okay.
We are only saying those of us who are benefiting the most in this economy, let them look for us and pay, but we are not doing it willingly.
Okay.
And that is why such taxes are introduced where now you can't hide.
And
if legal fees is paid for me in cash, I will hide. If I buy a car with it, you say to my own upper.
Okay, when Ambrose Weda does not agree with the insurance company then,
yes,
that is giving you insurance,
yes,
does it then mean that the insurance does not give you a cover? Who will address that?
There's a law that requires you must have a cover. So somehow you'll have to have a cover.
But
if you don't have a cover, the police will...
That is not provided for. The mechanism to resolve that dispute.
I'm telling you as a lawyer that having a cover on our roads is minimum third party. You can't have a car on the road without insurance. So at that time when you're going for the insurance, you insure your car 30 million. That's when they'll tell you, in your 100,000. Okay. You insure yours, which is 12,000, third party. They say, lipa lufutano. Out of this, okay, the rich middle class, the wealthy middle class will also add to our economy. It's a sacrifice, but one day we will look back.
They already are reeling under squeezed pay slips and squeezed household budgets. I mean,
and you see,
look at housing levy.
And you see, Ayub,
for the country.
And you see, Ayub,
but okay,
Ayub,
let me get accountability before I come to Honorable Monja and you.
Yes.
We have a tiny majority.
Yes.
Of Kenyans who are paying taxes.
Yes.
And this is the middle class.
Yes.
People with pay slips.
Yes.
They are already reeling under the effect of squeezed pay slips that continues to be slashed.
Yes.
There was the housing levy.
Yes.
Shift is starting next month. That is the new social health insurance scheme.
Yes.
I mean, you are taxing less than 3 million people.
Yes.
Up to what level?
The issue you are raising is expand the tax base. That's very good. And we are saying expand it. But for us who have already been caught with our big cars, big houses, big lands, big jewelry, let us pay. They paid for us and we are free and we thank them.
You know.
Okay, no, it still doesn't answer my question because a tiny majority that continually is being taxed, and this is taxation marginalization, is it?
No, it is sacrifice.
How will 3 million people sustain an entire economy run in terms of taxation?
We are not saying that. We are saying expand. We say that the taxman, taxwoman, please expand. For us now, when they expand, the tax burden will reduce. For now, Nisisi, it is hard. But I'm urging you, just sacrifice. You
cannot pull a dead end.
And you gave him a million.
One of the things.
Salary per month.
One of the things that Winston Churchill once said is that you cannot tax a country into prosperity. I believe everyone is going that. You can listen from Ambrose's argument.
Yes.
First of all, as an advocate, he knows you're setting yourselves up even with this finance bill. The issue of double taxation, it is during Kibaki's time that he opted to remove something called road license, if you remember there existed such a thing, and that tax was put in the fuel levy. Now you're bringing a different kind of tax, the same tax, which is what you're calling circulation. It already exists. In my opinion, that is grounds enough to go to court to stop this tax and say you cannot double tax us twice. The other issue is the issue of, I'm hoping that's not my phone, apologies. The other issue is the issue of data protection. What they're saying with the new KRA bill, lift the veil, that you can always just go into some, KRA is basically immune from the Data Protection Act. You know you're going against the Constitution. Article 31, right to privacy. That right there you're going to fail. More importantly, let's talk about what our conscience carries. What do you think as a human being? Because if we're talking about the Kenyans who are salaried, the Kenyans who are already paying housing levy, the Kenyans who are already increasing their taxes, their pay from 30 to 35%, the same Kenyans now, you go for them with this motor vehicle circulation, you're taxing basically the same people. This, I can tell you, is something that comes from IMF. And we saw it with Greece. What they did with Greece when they were bailing out Greece is they told them, we're going to lower your salaries and increase your taxes. IMF has evolved now, so they know better. Going after, if you today in Kenya, you try and tell people, let's lower your salaries. All manner of hell will break loose. You will go to courts, court orders will be there. That will not work. So they've learned from Greece. So what do? Find a way to tax the same people and collect this money. These are the conditions that this government is following. They're not following what Kenyans want or what we think is best for us. They're following what somebody else is telling them. So when he says Dedan Kimathi and Bildad Kagia and what you've done, you've switched from the colonialism that existed then to now an even more stringent colonialism called IMF that is forcing us to tax the middle class the way they did it in Greece. Now, what these guys are making a mistake, and let me tell you where they're going wrong, is that when the IMF is helping some of these countries in Europe, us in Africa, they don't treat us the same way. What they did with Greece is that they ensured that some of the products that Greece produces were being sold in Europe. They got some of the countries in Spain, Italy to sign. Greece is a very popular destination for tourism. So they got all these people. You saw the Prime Minister of the UK, of Spain, all of them going to Greece during that 2008, 2009, 2010 period when those austerity measures were there. What happens with us? Our president goes to the US, is told, we're going to help you with Microsoft in Kenya, we're going to give you some money to build some road from here to Mombasa, and that's a loan also. We are told, now, we're going to look for some 900 million USD. This is what you're going to get. 120 million you're given in advance. The balance, which we are waiting for, go past the finance bill first. Once you pass it, then we'll give you this money. That is what we are going through right now. And that is the problem that we are facing. So if you think that this process you're taking is what is going to save this country, I can assure you, we've taken a path that is only going to ensure that People, manufacturers move out of this country, businesses close down, and more importantly, you're going to get Kenyans.
Okay.
Kenyans adjust themselves. Let me just say one issue on the 2023-2024 finance bill. It was supposed to increase collections to 2.6 trillion. We're going to miss that target, in my estimate, by about 300 billion. So if this new finance bill is talking about raising it to 2.9 trillion, right now, if we cannot get to 2.3 trillion, how are you telling me that we're going to get to 2.9 trillion by next year? This GDP is saying that it has increased. GDP in Kenya is a moving target. And the reason we move it is so that our percentage of borrowing remains safe as per the law.
Yes, Janet.
You know, listening to UDA economics, it is UDA economics. We have had this, that we are taxing bread so you can eat sweet potatoes, so you can eat arrowroot. That's an argument coming from someone that I think it was MP for Molo, that we are taxing motor vehicle. If you don't want to use motor vehicle, then you can keep it at home. That person is not thinking, if I keep my motor vehicle at home, they will even miss the tax on fuel. So the kind of economics that the UDA government is doing, it really flies in the face of those that went to proper economics classes like myself. And I know that it's really disturbing to see that this kind of argument, that class wars is what actually thrusted this government to power. And I want to remind you, when they were forcing down the throats of Kenyans, the housing levy, I remember President William Ruto in one of the rallies saying, eti hawa watu ni wanakataa ni watax na waomba tu 1% ya pesa yao na wanakataa. Sort of inciting a section of people, which is what Wakili here is doing, inciting a section of people against another section of people. And what did that do? When they got excited that we are not being taxed, but it is they that are going to be taxed, the reality of the housing levy is that it is not for the rich. Anybody who owns a hotel, they received letters from KRE that, and those people earn 20,000. I want him to tell us how 20,000 composes of the rich bracket. They are paying the housing levy. And I want to tell Kenyans that it is time for us to stand together. It is not time for us to listen anymore to these divisions, that we are targeting the rich. That matatu that ferries you from home to town falls under that bracket of 4 million plus. If that tax is made, you will pay above 80 shillings in fare coming to town. Woe unto you if you continue listening to this divisive politics of pitting people in terms of classes. Kenyans, let us stand together and let us say that this is how we want our country to be done. And I know that we can put a real challenge on the political class and tell them, this is what we want. If you do not want this, please look for somewhere else to go. Okay, and talking of divisive politics, let's get this soundbite from the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. And this is on